It was a calm morning on Earth, just like any other. Birds chirped in the trees, people hurried to work, and children laughed as they played outside. Everything seemed normal, until it wasn't. At first, no one noticed anything unusual, but then something strange began happening in the skies above. A low rumble echoed across continents, growing louder with each passing second. People stopped what they were doing and looked up. The clouds that had been drifting lazily suddenly started to swirl, twisting into unnatural shapes. Then, without warning, the sky split open. It wasn't literal, of course. No one could explain exactly how or why it happened, but everyone saw it. Huge sections of the blue expanse peeled away, revealing something breathtaking and terrifying. Beyond the atmosphere, massive ships hovered silently. They weren't airplanes, satellites, or anything humans had ever seen before. These were star destroyers, giant metallic structures bristling with weapons and glowing with energy. Their surfaces shimmered under the sunlight, reflecting an eerie brilliance that made them look almost alive. Panic erupted instantly. In cities around the world, screams filled the air as people pointed upward, trying to make sense of what they were seeing. Some ran for cover, convinced the end of the world was near. Others stood frozen, too shocked to move. Social media exploded, with videos and photos of the phenomenon, spreading chaos faster than anyone could process. Governments scrambled to respond, issuing statements that only added to the confusion. Stay calm, leaders urged, though their own voices betrayed uncertainty. But not everyone was surprised. High above the Earth, aboard a sleek, futuristic warship called the Eclipse, Commander Elias Hart watched the scene unfold with steely resolve. He stood tall on the bridge, his sharp eyes scanning the monitors displaying live feeds from every corner of the globe. His uniform was crisp, his posture unwavering, but beneath his calm exterior, his mind raced. For years he had known this day would come. Now it finally had. Commander Hart wasn't just any military leader. He was the mastermind behind humanity's greatest secret, a classified space program hidden deep within the shadows of Earth's governments. While the rest of the world believed humanity was still struggling to explore its own solar system, Hart and his team had been working tirelessly to prepare for something far bigger. They had built weapons, shields, and entire fleets capable of defending Earth against threats most people couldn't even imagine. And now those preparations were being put to the test. As the alien ships loomed closer, Hart gave the order that would change everything. "Activate global defense grids," he said firmly, his voice cutting through the tension on the bridge. Below him, officers sprang into action, pressing buttons and pulling levers. Across the planet, hidden turrets emerged from mountainsides, deserts, and oceans. Laser cannons hummed to life, ready to unleash devastation at a moment's notice. The aliens didn't wait long to act. Small scout ships detached from the larger vessels and descended toward Earth, probing the atmosphere and scanning the surface. It was clear they hadn't expected resistance. When the first wave of alien probes entered firing range, Earth struck back. Bright beams of light shot upward, striking the invaders with pinpoint accuracy. One by one, the alien ships exploded in fiery bursts, sending shockwaves rippling through the air. The message was unmistakable. Earth was no longer helpless. Hart watched the battle unfold with mixed emotions. On one hand, he felt a surge of pride. Humanity had proven itself stronger and more resourceful than anyone, including the aliens, had anticipated. On the other hand, he couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The aliens wouldn't give up so easily. This skirmish was merely a taste of what was to come. As the last of the scout ships fell from the sky, Hart turned to his crew. "They'll regroup," he said, his tone grim. "And when they do, they'll bring everything they've got. We need to be ready." His words sent a chill through the room. Everyone knew what was at stake. If Earth failed to hold its ground, billions of lives would be lost. But if they succeeded, humanity might finally earn a place among the stars. Now, though, there was a brief lull. The skies cleared as the remaining alien ships retreated beyond Earth's orbit. People around the world stepped out of their homes, staring upward in awe and disbelief. The Star Destroyers were still visible, hovering menacingly in the distance like silent predators waiting for the perfect moment to strike. Back on the Eclipse, Hart allowed himself a rare moment of reflection. He thought about all the sacrifices that had led to this moment, the years of secrecy, the countless sleepless nights, the moral compromises he'd made along the way. He had always believed that humanity needed to be strong to survive in a dangerous universe. But standing here now, watching the aftermath of their first victory, he wondered if strength alone was enough. Little did he know, the real challenge was yet to come. The aliens weren't done, and soon, Commander Hart would face questions he couldn't answer with weapons or strategy. Questions about trust, morality, and the true cost of survival. For now, though, the world held its breath, marveling at the sight of Earth's newfound power. The sky had split open, revealing both danger and opportunity. What happened next would shape the destiny of humanity forever. The initial victory over the alien scouts brought a fleeting sense of relief to Earth, but it didn't last long. As news spread of humanity's successful defense, celebrations erupted in cities around the globe. Fireworks lit up the night sky, and people cheered in the streets, hailing Commander Elias Hart as a hero. For the first time in history, humanity felt like it had taken its rightful place among the stars. But deep down, everyone knew this was just the calm before the storm. High above Earth, aboard the Eclipse, Hart wasn't celebrating. He paced back and forth on the bridge, his mind racing with calculations and strategies. The destruction of the scout ships had been impressive, but it was only a fraction of what the aliens could throw at them. They hadn't even scratched the surface of their enemy's true power. And worse, they still had no idea who these invaders were or why they had come. Hours passed, and then came the moment Hart had been dreading. Sensors picked up movement near Jupiter, massive movement. A fleet of alien ships, far larger than anything humanity had encountered before, was heading straight for Earth. The sheer scale of the armada was staggering. Thousands of vessels glided through space in perfect formation, their glowing engines casting eerie shadows across the void. It was clear that this was no ordinary attack force. It was an invasion fleet. Hart immediately ordered all human forces to prepare for battle. Hidden bunkers around the world sprang to life as soldiers scrambled to man their stations. Laser turrets swiveled into position, missile silos opened, and fighter jets roared into the skies. Every available resource was mobilized for what promised to be the fight of humanity's existence. Yet despite the flurry of activity, Hart couldn't shake the feeling that brute force alone wouldn't win this war. Something deeper was at play here, and he needed answers. As the alien fleet approached, an unexpected transmission interrupted the tense silence. It wasn't a declaration of war or another wave of attacks. It was a message. A holographic figure appeared on the main screen of the Eclipse, addressing Hart directly. The being looked unlike anything Hart had ever seen. Its body shimmered like liquid metal, constantly shifting between forms. Its voice resonated with an otherworldly tone, both soothing and unnerving. "We are the Council of Galactic Unity," the figure declared. "We represent countless civilizations across the stars. Your actions today have disrupted the balance of our galaxy. We demand an explanation." Hart hesitated. This was the first time humanity had received direct communication from an alien entity. The implications were enormous. He glanced at his crew, who stared back at him with wide eyes, unsure of how to proceed. Finally, Hart stepped forward, his expression unreadable. "You've invaded our planet without provocation," Hart replied coolly. "If anyone owes an explanation, it's you." The alien council member tilted its head, as if considering Hart's words. Then it spoke again, its tone firmer this time. "We detected unauthorized activity within your solar system. Technology stolen from advanced races. Weapons built using knowledge not your own. You have broken interstellar law, Commander. Surrender now, and we may yet spare your species." A chill ran down Hart's spine. The Council knew. Somehow they had discovered humanity's greatest secret, the truth about how Earth had achieved such rapid technological advancement. Hart had always feared this day would come, but he never imagined it would happen so soon. He clenched his fists, forcing himself to stay composed. That technology saved us, Hart shot back. We used it to protect ourselves, to survive. If we hadn't, your kind would have wiped us out centuries ago. The alien paused, seemingly taken aback by Hart's boldness. Then it said, "Survival does not justify theft, nor does it excuse aggression. Meet with us. Explain yourselves. Perhaps there is still a path to peace." Hart exchanged a glance with his second-in-command, Captain Maria Vega. She gave him a subtle nod, silently urging him to accept the offer. Reluctantly, Hart agreed. "Fine," he said. "But know this, if you try anything, we'll fight back. And we're stronger than you think." The alien nodded slowly, then vanished from the screen. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Hart sank into his chair, rubbing his temples. He knew diplomacy might buy them time, but it also meant exposing humanity's darkest secrets. Secrets he had sworn to protect at all costs. The meeting took place aboard a neutral vessel stationed near Saturn. Hart traveled there accompanied by a small delegation, including Captain Vega and several scientists. As they boarded the alien ship, they were struck by its sheer size and sophistication. The walls pulsed with bioluminescent light, and strange symbols floated in midair, shifting and rearranging themselves like living code. It was unlike anything they had ever experienced. They were led to a vast chamber where the council awaited them. Dozens of alien representatives sat in a circular arrangement, each one more bizarre than the last. Some resembled giant insects with multiple limbs and glowing eyes. Others appeared as clouds of energy, hovering silently in the air. At the center of the room stood the same shimmering figure who had spoken to Hart earlier. "Commander Hart," the council leader began, "you stand accused of violating galactic law, stolen technology, unauthorized experimentation, aggression against peaceful explorers. What do you say in your defense?" Hart took a deep breath. He knew this moment would define humanity's future. If he played his cards wrong, Earth would face annihilation. If he succeeded, he might secure a fragile truce. Slowly, he stepped forward, his voice steady despite the weight of the situation. "Years ago," Hart began, "humanity stumbled upon derelict alien ships drifting in remote sectors of our solar system. Inside, we found advanced technology, weapons, engines, tools beyond our understanding. At the time, we were weak, vulnerable. We saw the dangers lurking in the cosmos, the predators and conquerors who viewed us as prey. So we made a choice. We salvaged what we could and used it to protect ourselves. Yes, we broke your laws, but we did it to survive." The council members exchanged glances, murmuring amongst themselves. Some seemed outraged, while others appeared contemplative. After a long pause, the leader spoke again. "Your intentions may have been noble, Commander, but the consequences of your actions cannot be ignored. By hoarding stolen technology, you have destabilized the galaxy. Other species will see your defiance and follow suit. Chaos will ensue." Hart lowered his head, knowing the council was right. Humanity's survival had come at a cost, one that extended far beyond Earth. Still, he refused to back down completely. "What do you want from us?" he asked. "Surrender? Reparations? Or are you here to destroy us?" The council leader regarded him thoughtfully. "We seek justice, but also understanding. Show us that your species is capable of change. Prove that you can coexist peacefully. Only then will we consider sparing you." Hart nodded, though his heart sank. He knew the road ahead would be difficult. Earning the trust of the galaxy wouldn't happen overnight. But for now, they had been given a chance. A slim one, but a chance nonetheless. As the meeting concluded, Hart returned to the Eclipse with a heavy burden on his shoulders. The aliens had backed off, for now, but the real battle was just beginning. Humanity would have to prove itself worthy of a place among the stars, and Hart, whether he liked it or not, was at the center of it all. Back on Earth, the mood was tense. News of the Council's ultimatum spread quickly, sparking debates and protests. Some argued that humanity should comply fully, dismantling its fleet and surrendering all stolen tech. Others believed Earth should fight back, refusing to bow to alien demands. Amidst the chaos, Hart remained silent, weighing his options. He knew one thing for certain: survival wasn't enough. Humanity had to grow, to adapt, to become something greater. The question was, could they rise to the challenge? Or would their flaws tear them apart? For now, the Star Destroyers still loomed in the distance, watching and waiting. The fate of Earth hung precariously in the balance. The meeting with the Alien Council had left Commander Elias Hart shaken, though he refused to show it. As the eclipse returned to Earth's orbit, Hart retreated to his private quarters, locking the door behind him. For the first time in years, he allowed himself to sit quietly and think. Not as a leader or strategist, but as a man burdened by choices that could never be undone. Hart replayed the Council's words over and over in his mind. Justice, but also understanding. It sounded simple enough, but the implications were enormous. Humanity was being asked to prove itself, to demonstrate that it deserved a place among the stars despite its past transgressions. Yet how could they do that when so much of their progress had been built on stolen foundations? The Council's ultimatum weighed heavily on Hart. Surrendering Earth's technology meant dismantling everything he'd worked for, everything he'd sacrificed to protect humanity. But there was something else gnawing at him: guilt. Hart had always justified his actions as necessary for survival. He told himself that humanity couldn't afford to play by the rules when the rest of the galaxy saw them as prey. But now, faced with the consequences of those decisions, he couldn't ignore the truth any longer. His choices hadn't just affected Earth, they had destabilized an entire galaxy. Other civilizations might follow humanity's example, breaking laws and hoarding power. Chaos would spread like wildfire, and Hart knew he bore responsibility for lighting the match. Back on Earth, tensions were reaching a boiling point. News of the Council's demands sparked outrage across the globe. Politicians argued endlessly about whether to comply or resist. Protesters filled the streets holding signs that read "No surrender" and "Stand strong against aliens." Meanwhile, conspiracy theories ran rampant online, accusing Hart of betrayal and incompetence. Some even claimed he had orchestrated the entire crisis to seize control of Earth's governments. Amidst the chaos, Captain Maria Vega stood by Hart's side. She had been his closest ally since the early days of the secret space program, and she understood the weight of what he carried. "You can't shoulder this alone," she told him one evening as they reviewed reports in the ship's command center. "Whatever decision you make, I'll support you, but you need to trust others too." Hart nodded grimly. He appreciated her loyalty, but trusting others wasn't easy, not when billions of lives depended on every move he made. Still, he knew Vega was right. If humanity was going to survive, it wouldn't be because of him alone. It would take teamwork, sacrifice, and perhaps more honesty than he was comfortable with. The Alien Council convened again, this time broadcasting their session live to Earth. Billions of people tuned in, watching anxiously as representatives from countless species debated humanity's fate. Some argued for leniency, pointing out that Earth's actions, while reckless, had stemmed from fear rather than malice. Others demanded harsh punishment, warning that letting humanity off lightly would embolden other rogue civilizations. As the debate raged on, Hart prepared to address the Council once more. This time, however, he decided to reveal everything: the full extent of humanity's crimes, his own role in them, and the reasons behind his choices. He knew it was risky. Admitting fault could weaken Earth's position, but keeping secrets would only deepen the mistrust between humans and aliens. Hart hoped that transparency might pave the way for redemption. When his turn came to speak, Hart stepped forward, his voice steady despite the storm raging inside him. "I am Commander Elias Hart," he began, his gaze sweeping across the assembled council members. "And I bear sole responsibility for humanity's actions." A hush fell over the chamber. Even the most hardened critics leaned forward, intrigued by Hart's bold admission. He continued, his words pouring out like water breaking through a dam. Decades ago, we discovered abandoned alien ships drifting in our solar system. Inside, we found technology far beyond our understanding. At the time, we were weak, fragile. We saw the dangers lurking in the cosmos, the predators who viewed us as nothing more than prey. So I made a choice. I authorized covert operations to salvage and reverse engineer that technology. I broke every law of interstellar conduct because I believed it was the only way to ensure humanity's survival. Hart paused, letting his confession sink in. Then he added, I don't expect forgiveness. What I did was wrong, but I ask you to understand why I did it. Survival isn't noble. It's messy, painful. Sometimes it forces you to do things you regret. All I can offer is my promise that humanity will change. We will work to earn your trust, to become better. The council erupted into murmurs, their reactions ranging from disbelief to reluctant admiration. One elder alien, resembling a crystalline structure with glowing veins of light, finally spoke. Your honesty is unexpected, it said, its voice resonating like chimes in the wind. Many leaders would have hidden behind lies or excuses. Instead, you stand before us, exposing your flaws. That takes courage. Hart exhaled, realizing he had struck a nerve. But the council member wasn't finished. Courage alone does not absolve wrongdoing, it continued. Your species must prove itself, not just through words but through actions. Will you dismantle your fleet and surrender all stolen technology? Or will you defy us and face the consequences? The question hung in the air, heavy and unyielding. Hart knew the answer mattered not just to him, but to every human being alive. After a long silence, he replied, We will comply, with conditions. The council leaned forward, intrigued. Hart explained his proposal. Instead of destroying Earth's fleet, humanity would use its resources to aid less fortunate civilizations. Factories that once produced weapons could manufacture tools for terraforming barren planets. Scientists who had studied alien tech could collaborate with galactic experts to solve shared problems. In exchange, the council would provide oversight, ensuring humanity adhered to interstellar laws moving forward. For a moment, the council seemed skeptical. Then, after a lengthy discussion, they agreed. It wasn't perfect. Earth would still lose much of its independence, but it was a chance to rebuild trust. A fragile truce had been reached. As news of the agreement spread, reactions on Earth were mixed. Some hailed Hart as a visionary, praising his ability to negotiate peace under impossible circumstances. Others accused him of selling out, claiming he had surrendered humanity's greatest achievements for empty promises. Despite the criticism, Hart remained resolute. He knew the path ahead wouldn't be easy, but it was the only way forward. ND. The weeks that followed, Earth began implementing the Council's terms. Factories retooled their equipment, shifting focus from warfare to humanitarian efforts. Scientists collaborated with alien counterparts, sharing knowledge and forging bonds. Even ordinary citizens embraced the change, marveling at the diversity of life beyond their blue planet. For Hart, though, the transition was bittersweet. Stripped of his rank and placed under house arrest, he spent his days reflecting on his choices. Though vilified by some, others hailed him as a hero who had saved humanity from extinction. Regardless of public opinion, Hart couldn't escape the guilt gnawing at him. Every night, he stared at the stars, wondering if he'd done the right thing. One evening, a familiar figure visited him, an ambassador from the Alien Council. She handed him a small device containing encrypted data. "This is for you," she said cryptically. Inside, Hart discovered plans for a revolutionary energy source capable of powering entire worlds. The Council had entrusted him with this gift, hoping he could redeem himself by contributing to the greater good. Tears welled up in Hart's eyes as he realized his journey wasn't over. Perhaps redemption wasn't about erasing past mistakes, but using them to pave a better future. As he gazed at the schematics, A renewed sense of purpose ignited within him. Humanity's story was far from finished, and neither was his. The star, destroyers still loomed in the distance, watching and waiting, but for now Earth had earned a reprieve, a chance to grow, adapt, and rise above its flaws. And Hart, despite everything, dared to hope that maybe, just maybe, humanity could thrive among the stars after all. The agreement with the Alien Council marked a turning point for humanity, but it wasn't the end of the struggle. Commander Elias Hart found himself at the center of a storm that refused to die down. While Earth's governments worked tirelessly to dismantle parts of its military fleet and redirect resources toward peaceful endeavors, not everyone was on board. Resistance brewed in unexpected places, among politicians, military leaders, and even ordinary citizens who couldn't fathom surrendering what they saw as humanity's hard-won achievements. Hart had been stripped of his rank and placed under house arrest as part of the deal, but he remained a polarizing figure. To some, he was a traitor who had betrayed humanity's sovereignty by bowing to alien demands. To others, he was a reluctant hero who had done what was necessary to save billions of lives. The weight of these conflicting opinions pressed heavily on him, but Hart didn't let it show. He spent his days poring over the data the alien ambassador had given him, a revolutionary energy source capable of powering entire planets, and plotting ways to make amends. On Earth, the transition was anything but smooth. Factories once dedicated to building weapons now churned out tools for terraforming barren moons and constructing habitats for struggling civilizations. Scientists collaborated with alien experts, sharing knowledge and forging bonds that transcended language barriers. Even school children learned about interstellar diplomacy, studying the customs and histories of other species. Slowly but surely, humanity began to adapt to its new role in the galaxy. But resistance simmered beneath the surface. Underground networks sprang up, determined to preserve Earth's stolen technology and prepare for another war. Some believed the aliens were using the truce as a smokescreen to weaken humanity before launching a final assault. Others simply couldn't accept the idea of relinquishing their power, no matter how fragile the peace might be. One such group, calling themselves the Guardians of Humanity, gained traction quickly. Led by General Marcus Kane, a former ally of Hart's who had grown disillusioned with his leadership, the Guardians argued that Earth should fight back rather than submit to alien oversight. They launched propaganda campaigns, spreading fear and distrust among the population. Posters appeared in cities around the world, depicting alien ships descending like vultures, while slogans like "Trust no one" and "Earth first" dominated social media feeds. Kane himself became a vocal critic of Hart, accusing him of cowardice and betrayal. In interviews broadcast across global news channels, he declared, "Commander Hart sold us out because he was too afraid to face the truth, that we're stronger than they think. If we don't stand our ground now, we'll lose everything." Despite the growing unrest, Hart stayed focused on his mission. With the help of Captain Maria Vega, who still supported him despite the backlash, he worked to develop the new energy source provided by the aliens. If successful, it could revolutionize life not just on Earth but across the galaxy. It was a chance to prove humanity's worth, not through force, but through innovation and cooperation. Meanwhile, tensions between Earth and the Alien Council continued to simmer. Though the Council had agreed to oversee humanity's compliance, mistrust lingered on both sides. Inspectors arrived regularly to monitor progress, ensuring that Earth adhered to the terms of the agreement. But their presence only fueled resentment among those who viewed them as occupiers rather than allies. One day, an incident nearly reignited hostilities. A team of alien inspectors visiting a decommissioned weapons facility in Siberia reported being attacked by unknown assailants. The attackers escaped before they could be identified, but evidence suggested they were linked to the Guardians of Humanity. When confronted, General Kane denied involvement, though his smug demeanor hinted otherwise. The Council demanded answers, threatening to revoke the truce if the perpetrators weren't brought to justice. Hart, despite his diminished status, was summoned to mediate the crisis. Reluctantly, he agreed, knowing failure would mean disaster for Earth. Standing before the council once again, Hart addressed the assembled representatives with quiet determination. "I cannot undo what has happened," he admitted, "but I can assure you that humanity is committed to this path. We will find those responsible and hold them accountable. This attack does not represent us. It represents the fear and anger that still linger within our society. Please give us time to heal." The council deliberated in silence, their glowing eyes fixed on Hart. Finally, the crystalline elder, who had spoken during previous meetings, leaned forward. "Your words carry weight, Commander," it said, "but actions speak louder. Prove to us that you are serious about change. Failure will not be tolerated." Back on Earth, Hart faced mounting pressure. Public opinion was divided, with protests erupting in major cities. Supporters of the truce clashed with members of the Guardians, leading to violent confrontations. Meanwhile, Kane intensified his campaign, rallying supporters to defy the council outright. "If we wait for their approval, we'll never reclaim our strength," he declared in a fiery speech. "It's time to take back what belongs to us." As chaos spread, Hart realized he couldn't rely solely on diplomacy. He needed to address the root cause of the resistance: fear. People were scared, not just of the aliens, but of losing their identity. For centuries, humanity had defined itself through struggle and survival. Now, they were being asked to redefine themselves as part of something greater. It was a daunting task, one that required more than speeches or promises. Hart decided to take a bold step. Using the encrypted data from the council, he unveiled plans for the energy source during a live broadcast viewed by billions. Standing in front of a massive holographic display, he explained how the technology worked and what it could achieve. "This isn't just about powering cities or terraforming planets," he said. "It's about proving that humanity has the potential to contribute positively to the galaxy, that we're not just survivors, we're creators, innovators, partners." His words struck a chord. For the first time in months, people began to see a future beyond conflict. Hope replaced fear, albeit cautiously. Even skeptics acknowledged that the energy source represented a unique opportunity, one that could benefit everyone, not just Earth. General Kane, however, wasn't swayed. In a desperate bid to sabotage the project, he orchestrated a cyber attack aimed at destroying the research facility where Hart and his team were working. The attack succeeded in disabling critical systems, plunging the facility into darkness. Explosions rocked the building as backup generators failed, trapping dozens inside. Trapped in the control room with Vega and several scientists, Hart refused to panic. Drawing on years of experience, he coordinated efforts to restore power manually, all while keeping morale high. "We've faced worse," he reminded the group. "This is just another challenge to overcome." After hours of grueling work, they managed to stabilize the situation. The facility was damaged, but the core components of the energy source remained intact. When news of the attack broke, public outrage turned against Kane and the Guardians. Their actions had endangered innocent lives, undermining their claims of protecting humanity. With support waning, Kane disappeared, taking his followers underground. Though the threat hadn't been eliminated entirely, the tide had shifted decisively, in Hart's favor. In the aftermath of the attack, Hart returned to his quarters exhausted but hopeful. The road ahead remained uncertain, but for the first time in a long while, he felt a glimmer of optimism. Humanity had taken its first real steps toward redemption, not through force, but through resilience and ingenuity. And though he knew challenges lay ahead, Hart believed they could rise to meet them. The Star Destroyers still loomed in the distance, watching silently. But now, instead of dread, Hart felt a strange sense of camaraderie. The galaxy was vast, filled with dangers and opportunities alike. And somewhere out there, perhaps, was a place where humanity truly belonged. For now, though, the journey continued. Months passed, and Earth slowly settled into its new reality. The scars of conflict still lingered, both physical and emotional, but the planet was changing in ways no one could have predicted. Factories that once churned out weapons now produced tools for terraforming barren moons and building habitats for struggling civilizations. Scientists worked side by side with alien experts, sharing knowledge and forging bonds that transcended language barriers. Even ordinary citizens embraced the shift, marveling at the diversity of life beyond their blue orb. For Commander Elias Hart, however, the transition was bittersweet. Stripped of his rank and placed under house arrest, he spent his days reflecting on the choices that had brought humanity to this point. Though vilified by some as a traitor, others hailed him as a reluctant hero who had sacrificed everything to save billions of lives. Regardless of public opinion, Hart couldn't escape the guilt gnawing at him. Every night he stared at the stars, wondering if he'd done enough, or if it was all too little, too late. The Energy Source Project became Hart's lifeline, a way to channel his regrets into something meaningful. With Captain Maria Vega and a team of dedicated scientists, he poured every ounce of his energy into perfecting the technology. If successful, it would not only power entire planets but also serve as a beacon of hope for humanity's place among the stars. It was a chance to prove that Earth wasn't just a survivor. It was a creator, an innovator, a partner. Progress was slow but steady. Early tests showed promising results, and soon word spread across the galaxy about humanity's groundbreaking work. Alien ambassadors visited the research facility, expressing admiration for what Hart and his team had achieved. For the first time in years, Hart felt a flicker of pride, not because of personal glory, but because humanity was finally earning respect through collaboration rather than conquest. But challenges remained. General Marcus Kane and his guardians of humanity hadn't disappeared. They had gone underground, plotting their next move. Rumors circulated about secret bases hidden in remote corners of the globe, where stolen technology was being stockpiled for a potential uprising. While most people dismissed these whispers as paranoia, Hart knew better. He understood the depths of fear and anger driving Kane's followers, and he feared what might happen if they succeeded. One evening, as Hart reviewed data in his makeshift office, Vega entered with grim news. "We intercepted a transmission from one of their cells," she said, her voice tense. "They're planning something big, an attack on the Council's flagship." Hart froze. The Council's flagship, a massive vessel known as the Etherian, served as both a diplomatic hub and a symbol of unity among galactic civilizations. An attack on it would shatter the fragile peace and plunge the galaxy into chaos. Without hesitation, Hart sprang into action. "We need to warn the Council immediately," he said, "and we need to stop them before it's too late." With Vega's help, Hart assembled a small task force composed of trusted allies. They tracked the Guardians' movements to a remote asteroid base deep in the Kuiper Belt. The mission was risky. Kane's forces were well armed and desperate, but Hart refused to let fear dictate his actions. This was his chance to make things right, to protect the future he had fought so hard to build. The assault began under the cover of darkness. Hart's team infiltrated the base stealthily, disabling security systems and neutralizing guards without raising alarm. As they approached the main control room, however, they encountered heavy resistance. Blasts of energy lit up the corridors and the air crackled with tension. Despite the danger, Hart pressed forward, driven by a sense of purpose stronger than any weapon. Inside the control room, Kane stood defiantly, surrounded by consoles displaying countdown timers. "You're too late, Hart," he sneered. "By the time you stop me, the Etherian will be nothing but dust." Hart didn't flinch. "It doesn't have to end like this, Marcus," he said calmly. "This isn't about revenge or power. It's about survival, for all of us." For a moment, Kane hesitated. Then, with a snarl, he lunged toward the console, intent on triggering the attack. But Hart was faster. In a swift motion, he tackled Kane to the ground, wrestling the controls away from him. Alarms blared as the countdown halted mere seconds before detonation. As reinforcements arrived to secure the base, Hart looked down at Kane, who lay defeated but unrepentant. "You don't understand," Kane spat. "Humanity deserves more than scraps from their table." "And we'll get it," Hart replied firmly. "But not like this. Not through hate and destruction. We earn our place by proving ourselves worthy, not by tearing others down. Back on Earth, news of the thwarted attack sparked relief and renewed determination. Public support for the truce soared, while the guardians of humanity crumbled under scrutiny. General Kane was taken into custody, his rebellion reduced to ashes. For the first time in years, humanity seemed united, not by fear but by hope. Hart returned to his work with renewed vigor. The Energy Source project reached completion shortly afterward, culminating in a historic demonstration aboard the Etherian. Representatives from countless species gathered to witness the unveiling, their eyes wide with awe as the device powered an entire orbital station effortlessly. Cheers erupted throughout the ship, breaking down barriers that had once seemed insurmountable. Afterward, the council leader approached Hart privately. "You have done more than save your species, Commander," it said. "You have shown us that redemption is possible, even after the gravest mistakes. Your journey inspires us all." Tears welled up in Hart's eyes as he realized the full weight of those words. Redemption wasn't about erasing the past. It was about using it to create a better future. Humanity's story was far from over, but for the first time, it felt like they were heading in the right direction. In the months that followed, Earth continued to thrive within the galactic community. The Star Destroyers that had once loomed menacingly above the planet now stood as guardians of peace, protecting humanity alongside other civilizations. People around the world celebrated newfound connections with alien cultures, learning to appreciate the beauty of diversity. As for Hart, he found solace in knowing that his sacrifices hadn't been in vain. Though he would never fully escape the shadows of his past, he had helped pave the way for a brighter tomorrow. The stars no longer represented fear, they symbolized possibility. And so, as the sun set on another peaceful day, Hart gazed upward, imagining the adventures yet to come. Humanity's journey among the stars was just beginning, and though challenges undoubtedly lay ahead, he believed they were ready to face them, together.